Your top stories this evening sponsored by Courts, bringing value home. Policewoman bludgeoned to death. Suspect commits suicide. Exxon Mobil announces another oil find offshore Guyana. And mass property valuation needed. Canadian evaluation firm being consulted. HGP Nightly News begins now. Good evening to our viewers here in Guyana and online. I'm Travis Chase with the Thursday, October 5 edition of the HGP Nightly News. Here's what you need to know this evening. Exxon Mobil on Thursday announced yet another oil find offshore Guyana, taking the total of new finds to 5 as the company speeds up exploration work here. Rodin James sat down with head of Exxon's government affairs for the latest update.
Oil exploration giant Exxon Mobil announced Thursday morning that it has discovered more oil offshore Guyana. Turbo is Exxon Mobil's latest discovery to date here, adding to the previous discoveries at Liza, Payara, Snook and Liza Deep. In an exclusive interview with the Nightly News on Thursday, head of Exxon Mobil's Public and Government Affairs, Kimberly Brassington, confirmed the find.
It's exciting. We announced our 5th discovery offshore Guyana. It's called the Turbo Field. It's a new reservoir and a new field for us. It's the first well we've drilled there, and we discovered oil.
ExxonMobil's affiliate Esso Exploration and Production began drilling the Turbo 1 well on August 14. Ms. Brassington explained that it is too soon to determine the size of the latest find.
What we know is there's physically 75 feet of sandstone we've drilled through that contains oil. And so what we're going to do is come back next year in 2018 and drill a second well in this same field, which will give us an idea of how large the reservoir is, which is very similar to what we did, if you remember, with the Liza field. We drilled Liza 1. We announced there was a hydrocarbon, but then we came back and drilled Liza 2 and Liza 3, which then helped us. That allowed us to give the number of how many barrels the field is. So we don't know yet how big it is.
The ExxonMobil official noted that with just a few months remaining this year, the company is to continue exploration to maximize their achievements offshore Guyana.
We're going to squeeze one more well in 2017. So when we wrap up Turbo in the next few days, weeks, we're going to move to a new prospect called Ranger. It's a completely separate standalone field, and we're going to drill the Ranger prospect this year.
The company is yet to define its 2018 program, but as stated by Ms. Brassington, ExxonMobil is eager to know more about the Turbo well, which has shown great potential. Royden James, HGP Nightly News.
Thank you, Royden. With the police now. Investigators are baffled as they try to find out the motive behind the killing of a female police in Berbice. Police Sergeant 39-year-old Kenesha Sheriff Fraser was Thursday morning bludgeoned to death at her number 30 Village West Coast Berbice home. Photographs seen by Nightly News, which are not at all suitable for television, showed the woman in her bedroom in the upper flat of her 2-storied home with multiple chop wounds about her body and a cutlass, which crime sleuths say is the murder weapon, next to her. Her body is at the Anthony's funeral home awaiting an autopsy. The body of the suspect, Clayton Anthony, called Woody, a pork knocker, was later found hanging from a tree at the number 30 Village seashore. Police have told Nightly News that Anthony was seen leaving the upper flat of the house with a piece of rope shortly after they heard screams coming from the woman's house. The sergeant's body was discovered after residents rushed to the house to inquire what the screaming had been about. Fraser was married with 3 children. Crime sleuths are still baffled as to the motive of the crime. Travis Chase, HGP Nightly News. We tell you now that 5 restaurants in Georgetown have been shut down for violating municipal regulations, and similar consequences dangle over other food handling businesses that fail to adhere to the relevant municipal bylaws. Here's Kristen Macklingam with this story.
5 food businesses in the city have been closed after the mayor and city council clamped down on them for operating without the necessary documentation. This was disclosed by acting head of the MNCC's Meat and Hygiene Food Department, Ms. Abiola Baker.
Documents that they should have or they should present to the city council before they even start the operation are a copy of an approved building plan from Central Housing and Planning Authority. A copy of that plan should also be sent to the City Engineers Department with the approval of the council. Also, the letter from Central Housing and Planning giving them the authority to operate whatever type of business it is. Now, these 5 businesses, none of them has the necessary documentation.
She explained that in light of the businesses failing to adhere to the rules and regulations of City Council, this harsh decision had to be made to have them shut down.
Some of them have been operating under insanitary conditions. They've been operating without their food handler certificates, and they have also been employing staff and have them operating under those circumstances or conditions as well. We visited them several times. We served them with violation notice to no avail. So we have had to take this decision of having them closed.
According to Ms. Baker, no business in the city is exempt from such violations, and others which are found to be operating illegally will also be subjected to the same fate. Reporting for HGP Nightly News, I am Kristen Macklingam.
No decision has been made on whether the AP and UFC will be contesting the 2018 local government elections jointly or independently. Whichever way it pans out, President Granger says APNU is well prepared for the elections next year. Rodin James reports.
Local government elections were held in Guyana at the end of 2015 after a hiatus of more than 20 years. Those elections are due again next year, and President Granger has declared that he has no plan to delay those elections. Mr. Granger had earlier said that the results of the 2018 elections will be the decisive factor on the performance of his administration so far. On Wednesday, the president said APNU is well prepared for the elections next year.
We never lose touch with the people. We always engage. We do outreaches all the time. You saw me in Linden on the 1st of October. And we always engage with the people. Local government elections wouldn't come as a surprise to us. We always prepared.
President Granger said no definitive decision has been made on whether APNU and the AFC will contest next year's elections independently. In 2015, the 2 parties contested the local government elections as a single unit.
APNU is committed to consensual politics, to inclusionary democracy. And as I said during my campaign in 2015, we're better together. The coalition so far has been a success, and I can say it is a matter for the AFC. But we have different constituencies, and as far as I'm concerned, APNU as a 5-party partnership intends to remain together, and we'd be very happy to work along with any partners, not just AFC, any other partners.
Mr. Granger reminded that the local government election is fundamental to the country's democracy, and under his leadership, these elections are indispensable.
You would have recalled that during the later days of Mr. Ramatar's tenure, I was picketing there week after week outside of the Ministry of the Presidency. And within a year of getting into office, we had local government elections. Isn't that fantastic?
And as the elections draw near, the Guyana Elections Commission is without a chairman, and the Local Government Commission is still non-functional, both of which the President has pledged to fix. Royden James, HGP Nightly News.
Thank you, Royden. The nation is being prepared to cope with unforeseen events that could arise by virtue of climate change. A multi-million-dollar project to create smart hospitals is in the making. Ina George reports.
Climate change has summoned collaborative efforts among the Ministry of Public Health, PAHO WHO, and private stakeholders to provide efficient health care for Guyanese in the time of natural disaster. British High Commissioner Greg Quinn says the British government is committed to ensure that the country's health care service reaches its full potential.
It is within the region, within the Caribbean region. It is designed to make health facilities more resilient to natural disasters, something which I think we can all agree is particularly necessary in the light of recent events. We expect to spend somewhere in the region of £5.4 million, or about 1.4 billion Guyanese dollars.
Minister within the Ministry of Public Health, Karen Cummins, says the initiative is to see the country revolutionize as a green economy with widespread development in a sustainable manner.
It is important to note, however, that building a smart hospital is more than bringing together connected devices on a high-speed network infrastructure. It means rethinking the care processes, management systems, and even physical facilities to drive a new way of delivering care.
High Commissioner Greg Quinn further said that it is very important that hospitals in Guyana be built as solar facilities to conserve energy.
So the assessments have been drawn up. They have led to the creation of a priority list of 10 health facilities, which has been submitted to the Ministry of Public Health for consideration. These priority facilities meet key selection criteria in terms of population served, vulnerability, and impact to best serve the project aims.
From Pegasus Hotel in Kingston, reporting for HGP Nightly News, I'm Ina George.
Presidential Advisor on the Environment, Rear Admiral Gary Best, recommends that the state should provide a portion of land to descendants of African Guyanese for the sufferings of their forefathers. Mr. Best appeared before the land's COI on Thursday. Rodin James has more.
It is the contention of Mr. Best that enslaved African Guyanese were and continue to be indigenous to the land they worked for centuries ago. He also submitted to the Commission that Afro-Guyanese were never an overly dominant grouping in this country. The retired Rear Admiral told the Commission that the fact that the colonial legislature used its legal powers to institute unjust laws which prevented freed Africans from acquiring their lands underscored the importance that the state of Guyana should now use its legislative power to enact just laws that will provide restorative justice to the descendants of enslaved Africans in the form of land.
Is the allocation of a portion of land to the descendants of enslaved Africans as reparatory and restorative justice for the sufferings endured by our ancestors, commencing with a violent removal by the Europeans and consequent deprivation of their lands in Africa, and for the continued deprivation of lands in Guyana while being enslaved, even as they toiled the lands of this country without payment for over 200 years, but paradoxically deprived of those same lands at emancipation. My proposal is that this allocation of land shall be protected by legislation and held in a perpetual trust on behalf of the descendants of freed Africans for the purposes of productive development and for mitigating and ameliorating the current and future conditions of the African Guyanese.
Mr. Best told the Commission that the people of African descent are still working to repair the cultural genocide at the hands of the British oppressors. To that extent, therefore, Mr. Best said that it is important that the lands and cultural rights of African Guyanese be protected under the Constitution of Guyana.
Reparations and restorative justice will allow Guyana as a state to enact laws that correct the injustices committed by unjust laws enacted during and post-enslavement through legal bodies with quasi-judicial powers such as this Commission of Inquiry to hear evidence and bring the matter to closure through the actions of the state in the form of policy actions, including legislation.
Mr. Best also recommended an African Land Titling Act. He is of the view that there is nothing in Guyana that prevents the state from enacting just laws to provide justice for the descendants of African Guyanese.
The state of Guyana, as a successor state to the British colonial state, has an obligation to accept the history and ancestry of the African Guyanese and enact laws to correct the injustices perpetrated against them. We in Guyana are not inherently a racial people. However, we are trapped in this constructed racial regime introduced and perfected by the British, with us as the key players. In that sense, we continue to react in different ways to the wrongs committed against us by the British by attacking not the British system, but our fellow Guyanese.
The Commission plans to take some of Mr. Best's recommendations into consideration. The second session of the Lands Commission of Inquiry has ended and the third session is slated to commence next week. Roy and James, HGP Nightly News.
You're watching the HGP Nightly News. The public education system continues to be adversely affected by high truancy rates despite interventions. Kristen Macklingam raised this issue with the Chief Education Officer.
In Guyana, children continue to miss out on obtaining quality education due to absenteeism, although methods have been put in place to eliminate these trends.
I believe as a country we have done enough to ensure that children are in school, even if they are in a state of poverty. They are given, in some cases, juice, biscuit, milk, some cases a meal. In many cases we have even some non-governmental organizations to go out of their way to make a contribution to children who might be in poverty or who might be experiencing hardships.
Chief Education Officer Marcel Hudson addressing the issue of truancy and his ministry's initiatives to overcome this challenge. According to Mr. Hudson, education in his view is the key to social mobility, and therefore sacrifices have to be made so that children could grow and develop into functional human beings in society.
And therefore it is a criminal offense for any parent to deliberately and maliciously keep children away from school, as long as they've not attained the age of primary education. Secondary education in this country is compulsory, and therefore if parents are caught not sending the children to school, they could be prosecuted by the law.
The Chief Education Officer noted that his ministry is very keen to ensure that children attend schools, and that is why the truancy campaigns are being aggressively pursued.
We actually do visits in streets and communities where children are picked up and they're lodged in some cases we have facilities where they're lodged. It might be at the school, it might be at the police station, where the parents come and pick them up, and the parents receive counsel, coaching, and in some cases strong warning as to the importance of having their children in the school.
Reporting for HGP Nightly News, I am Kristen Macklingam.
3 students of the University of Guyana are recipients of Quartz Guyana Cooperative Scholarship Awards valued at $300,000 each. More from Mayana George.
Quartz Guyana Inc. on Wednesday brought relief to 3 students pursuing studies at the University of Guyana through the firm's 3rd Quartz Scholarship Award. The lucky students are currently pursuing studies in law and education. Quartz Finance Director Neil Boucher says the scholarship is open to customers of Quartz or the children of Quartz customers.
And I want to implore you to work hard as a awardee. My charge is to work hard, keep that grade points up so that you can be continue to be sponsored for the entire duration of the period. I don't want to hear that people have been dropping out of the program because of they're not able to make that standard that we're looking forward for.
Mr. Boucher added that the students will be eligible to have the scholarship renewed yearly until they complete their studies. Here is Jubilante Cuttin, one of the lucky law students who expressed her gratitude to Quartz for the kind gesture.
I'm still lost for words at being selected, because having finance off of your plate when you're studying, it's actually one of the it's a burden that is worth being taken off of, and so I'm grateful to courts for being able to lift it for this period so that I can finish my final year with as much vigor that I want to. I have that vigor, I have that self-motivation, but when you think about finances and you think about studying at the same time, you're like, I need to choose.
Corporate and Social Responsibility Manager Chanel Bacchus relates just how the students became eligible for the scholarship.
You had to meet the criteria in order to be selected for the scholarship. So after that was done, we had the interview where the persons came in. If they were the actual account holder, we checked their accounts. We ensured that those accounts were in good standings. We checked their salary because one of the criteria is to ensure that they have the need for the help in the scholarship. If it's their parent, we look at their pay slip. We look at how many dependents they have in the home.
From courts, reporting for HGP Nightly News, Ayana George.
A local marine training institution, Matpal Marine Institute, celebrates its 18th anniversary. Here again is Ayana George.
Matpal Marine Institute aims to deliver quality marine training to seafarers. The institute was established in 1999 with more than 100 participants registered annually. Administrator of the institute, Colleen Abrams, says the institute offers marine professionals various training courses.
The maritime training on the whole targets persons who would wish to make a career out of seamanship. And in order for them to do such, they would need to obtain the requisite training in order to qualify themselves to work on board ships, whether locally, regionally, or internationally. So for the basic safety training, for example, once you are enrolled in that course, you would actually be doing elements of firefighting, first aid, personal survival, personal safety, social responsibilities. These areas would actually help you to integrate on board ship.
She said that it is very important that persons within the local marine industry remain relevant through an internationally recognized certificate.
In our cadet program, but within an approximate period of, let's say, 5 to 7 years, as long as they continue to pursue maritime training and certification, they can actually ascend to the levels of a ship officer, whether on the deck or the engineering side.
Some of the courses offered are basic training for oil and chemical tankers, watchkeeping for deck and engine room ratings, proficiency in shipboard navigation and operations for marine deck cadets, among others. Ms. Abrams elaborated that since Guyana will be opening the doors to the oil industry in 2020, the institute will be prepared to provide trained local professionals.
One of the courses that we offer, which has some amount of relevance to what's happening in the offshore industry, is the BTOCT course, which actually is the basic training for oil and chemical tankers. Now, whilst that course is actually going to be introducing persons to the workings of oil tanker vessels, the oil tanker vessels will eventually start mooring alongside the FPSOs to actually take bunker, take oil off of the FPSO to carry to be refined.
Matpal Marine Institute is located at Critchlow Labour College. From Matpal Marine Institute on Wolford Avenue, Thomas Lands, reporting for HGP Nightly News, Ayana George.
A nationwide property valuation exercise is currently in the making. Minister of Communities Ronald Bulkan says he acknowledges the concerns of the Georgetown municipality regarding the management of the Sophia district by City Hall. This story from Jevon Vickery.
In an invited comment, Minister Bulkan told Nightly News that the management of the Sophia district by the mayor and city council will be in the best interest of City Hall and the people of Sophia. In an early interview with Nightly News, Mayor of Georgetown Patricia Chase Green had expressed several concerns over the initiative. Minister Bulkan, however, noted that representatives of City Hall along with representatives of the Central Housing and Planning Authority, including the Ministry of Communities, are currently in discussion of those issues before the area is handed over.
No, I think it is in the interest of the municipality as well as the residents for the area to be handed over to the municipality for their, more effective management and administration and for the provision of essential services. I do not believe the question of assessment and property assessment and valuation will take an extended time, given that it is almost 2 decades that properties have not been revalued in the city. And I do not think we should wait until there is a comprehensive assessment of all of the properties in that particular location before the area is officially handed over to be part of the responsibility of the municipality. Right now there is a team that has been put together, and there's an MOU that's been prepared by the Central Housing and Planning Authority, for which discussions have started with the City Council. And it is my hope that whatever are the concerns and reservations of particularly the City Council, that we can find agreement and consensus on common ground.
The minister further noted that it has been more than 2 decades since properties were evaluated. To address this issue, Minister Bulkan explained that the evaluation division of the ministry is currently being modernized to assist in this effort. The modernization of the unit will see increased human capacity and the provision of necessary resources needed for mass property evaluation and assessment.
What we are doing now is trying to we are in discussions with an external partner, a Canadian property assessment organization, to be able to provide the specialized technical services to allow for mass property valuation, not only in the city of Georgetown, but our other municipalities as well as other local democratic organs, whereby councils can have reliable and current information with respect to property valuation that will allow for proper decision making that is data driven.
Javon Vickery, HGP Nightly News.
Thanks for staying tuned. I'm Colin Abrams with the HGP Sportscast. We start with news coming out of the Guyana Football Federation. Works have begun at the GFF National Training Center as part of the FIFA Forward program. More in this report.
Construction works began on Wednesday at the Guyana Football Federation National Training Center as the GFF gears up to create a stable home for football development in Guyana. The key activity executed was the clearing of the field by local contractor S. Nabi and Sons Limited to prepare same for further works. President of the Guyana Football Federation, Wayne Ford, visited the site and said he was happy that works have commenced. We're happy to see movement on the ground. We will keep our members and the general public fully informed throughout the project, he said. The first phase of the project will see the construction of the artificial turf by Greensfield, a manufacturer of artificial turf. This phase is scheduled to be completed by the end of January. Other aspects of the facility will include dormitories, kitchen services, gym, and a swimming pool.
In cricket, with round 6 of the Ghana Cricket Board Jaguars 3-day tournament commencing on Friday, Essequibo remains the leaders, Lower Currentine in 2nd, West Demerara 3rd, and Georgetown in 4th. More in this report.
The mighty Essequibo are 71.4 points strong, having maintained their lead from round 1 of the tournament. Lower Currentine are 11 points behind with 60.4 points for 2nd place. In 3rd position is West Demerara with 49.9 points, and Georgetown remain in 4th position with 48.5 points. East Coast Demerara are in the cellar, still struggling to gain a win. With an enticing 6th round ahead, we will witness Georgetown and West Berbice battling at Bush Slot. Upper Currentine will go up against Upper Demerara East Bank at Port Morant, while Lower Currentine will oppose West Demerara at Young Warriors Ground. These matches will commence from 9:30 hours from Friday, September 6. The unstoppable Essequibo team will take on East Coast Demerara at Lusignan from Saturday, September 7.
The Guyanese were off to a rough start at the South American Youth Games 2017 in Santiago, Chile. From the 4 groups, the first 2 winners in the groups will go on to the quarterfinals. Results are, in the girls' round-robin playoff, Priyana Ramdani is in Group B with Chile, Suriname, and Peru. She lost her first match to the number 1 seeded player in the group from Chile, Marcelo Flores, 21-9 and 21-16. She then came back and defeated Suriname's Arissa Blue 21-4 and 21-8 in her second match. Yesterday, she was down to play a Chilean opponent. Success in that match would take her into the quarterfinals. In the boys' round-robin playoff, Tyrese Jeffrey is in Group A with Chile and Argentina. He lost both matches to Alonso Medal of Chile 21-4 and 21-2, and to Mateo Del Mastro of Argentina 21-12 and 21-4. The other round-robin matches for the Guyanese players will be the mixed doubles. We turn our attention to hockey. The Guyana Olympic Association lends a helping hand to boost the International Hockey Cups. Stanford Howard has the details.
The organization made a presentation to the Guyana Hockey Board in the form of the sponsorship check towards the upcoming International Pan American Cups. The tournament scheduled for 14th to 22nd of October at the Cliff Anderson Sports Hall features teams representing all of the Americas and will feature simultaneous competitions for both men and women. The Guyana Hockey Board expects this event will contribute significantly to Guyana's effort of becoming a priority destination for sports tourism. The Guyana Olympic Association is no stranger to hockey and has worked together with the Guyana Hockey Board on several projects over the years. President of the Guyana Hockey Board was very excited about this development, saying, "When we first embarked on the Diamond Mineral Water Festival in 2004, the Guyana Olympic Association was one of the main organizations to give us their support. We are so pleased to have them participate in this monumental event as well. That festival has paved the way for Guyana's consideration for major international tournaments." The 2017 Indoor Pan American Cup serves as the Pan American Continental Qualifier for Indoor Hockey World Cups scheduled for February 2018 in Berlin, Germany. This year will be one of the largest in the tournament's history, and the Americas are well represented. 7 women's team and 6 men's team from Guyana, Argentina, Barbados, Canada, Mexico, Trinidad and Tobago, United States of America, and Uruguay will participate, with the top team earning a coveted spot in the World Cup. For HGP Sports, I'm Stanford Howard.
Thank you, Stanford. And that has brought us to the end of this edition of the HGP Sportscast. Back to you, Travis.
Policewoman bludgeoned to death. Suspect commits suicide. Exxon Mobil announces another oil find offshore Guyana. And mass property valuation needed. Canadian evaluation firm being consulted. Those were our major headlines. For these stories and more, please go to our website. It's www.hgptv.com. I'm Travis Chase. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.